Hello everyone, this is Dr. Mappus coming to you from Pennsylvania. Thought I'd have a nice hot cup of coffee and give you an introduction to week 1 of our New Testament survey course. It's really important to allow the history and the culture and the purpose behind a book, why the book was written, to define its meaning and to help us understand what it was the author was trying to communicate. I think far too often we want to contextualize a passage into our own lives without really understanding what it means. I'm reminded of a conversation I had when I was in college with a young guy. He was just infatuated with a young lady, we'll call her name Sally. He was infatuated with Sally. Now he knew about Sally, but he didn't really know her. And she had written him a couple letters, and he was so excited, and he said, "I just know she loves me. She loves me." And we went out and had coffee. I liked coffee back then. And he said, "Look at these letters, Dave. Look at these letters. She loves me." Matter of fact, it says right in the beginning, "Dear Sam, I love you." And he just thought, "That's great." And I said, well, wait a minute. She says, "Dear Sam, I love you as a brother in the Lord." Well, the context made a big difference, but because of his infatuation with her, he was decontextualizing the letters and then recontextualizing them in light of what he really wanted to hear. And it was just hilarious. You know, as I looked at some of these letters, she had written him to affirm her friendship to him, but not a romantic friendship. And at one point in the letter, she says, "I just think you're a wonderful guy." And he would say, "Look, she thinks I'm a wonderful guy." And I said, "Yeah, but read on what it says. I think you're a wonderful guy, but I just want to be friends." So he wasn't really getting the point of the letter. Too often we do that, don't we? We come to the text with our own preconceived ideas, our own socially or politically constructed worldviews. And we rip the New Testament out of its context, and then we recontextualize it into our own world. This week is just a survey of how to do a survey and how to think about the books. Now, if you're new to Christianity, or maybe this is your first college class, don't be overwhelmed by the amount of information, and don't mute it, okay? Don't mute it. In other words, don't just mute it and say, "Okay, I'll just get through this until the next week." You may have to reread chapters 1 to 3 in your text a couple times. Let me give you a neat way to think about how the Pauline epistles are identified with Paul's missionary journeys. I had to memorize all these when I was in college, and it took a lot of time, but I think I have a fun way to do it. And I've actually written this up for you, and I posted it in one of your announcements. But think of it this way, okay? Paul comes to know Christ, and years later, Paul takes a number of missionary journeys. So after Paul's, and I'm going to hold up my hands. I'm a professor. I cannot not teach. Ready? So here we go. Okay. After Paul's first missionary journey, he writes one book, okay? So after Paul's first missionary journey, he writes one book, and that's the book of Galatians. That's the first book that Paul wrote, okay? During Paul's second missionary journey, he writes how many books, okay? He writes 2 books, and they're twins, or they're sister books, or they're brother books, okay? They're 2 books, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. So, after Paul's first missionary journey, how many books does he write? Okay, 1, and that's the book of Galatians. Okay. During Paul's second missionary journey, he writes 2 twin books, and what are they? 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. On Paul's third missionary journey, how many books do you think he's going to write? Okay, 3, right? You got it, 3. Okay, an ace for you. You get an A. So on Paul's third missionary journey, he writes 3 books, and they are the big books. They're the big New Testament books. 1st and 2nd Corinthians and the book of Romans. Okay, 1st and 2nd Corinthians and the book of Romans. Okay, let's do it again. After Paul's first missionary journey, how many books does he write? Okay. During Paul's second missionary journey, how many books does he write? Okay. And they're the twin books. During Paul's third missionary journey, how many books does he write? Okay, the big ones, right? You know what they are. 1st, 2nd Corinthians, and Romans. While Paul was on his third missionary journey, he gets put in under house arrest. And how many books does he write? 4. Okay, you got it. Even without memorizing it, you've got it. One book. Second journey, 2 books. Third journey, 3 books. He's in prison and he writes 4 books. The prison epistles. That's what we call them, the prison epistles. Colossians, Ephesians, Philippians, and Philemon. Okay? The prison epistles. Paul is released from prison, from Roman imprisonment. Really, he was under house arrest. Okay, while he was waiting for his trial to come about. And then Paul was released, and we don't have a record from the book of Acts, but we do have 3 more books that he wrote, and we call those the pastoral epistles. Not because they're just for pastors. I used to think that. But they're called the pastoral epistles because he's dealing with pastoral type issues in churches. So even without memorizing anything, you have got Paul's letters identified with his missionary journeys. So think of that. After Paul's first missionary journey, how many books? During Paul's second missionary journey, how many books? And they're twins. On Paul's third missionary journey, how many books? They're the big ones. Then he's put in prison, and we got 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope you enjoy this week. Your book is a little sterile, I think. You might need to read it with some imagination in terms of thinking about, wow, just imagine how the New Testament was put together. Think of it this way, and with this I'm going to let you go. I don't like long video introductions, and I'm not really very good at making videos. But think of it this way. How would you explain the composition of the New Testament to someone who had no background of Christianity at all? Think of that. How would you do that? Read the book, read these 3 chapters, trying to figure out how you would explain the New Testament cultural, historical background and how the books came about to someone who had no vestige of Christianity at all. I think if you read it with that understanding, it will help you. Hey, I'm praying for you. I love to get emails, so look forward to getting to know you. And I hope you have a wonderful week in the Lord.